Ciao ragazzi, it's Wojtek and Michalina from Enjoy Sicily. Welcome to the next episode of our podcast cycle Poland vs Italy in Radio Antivirus. Today we will be comparing studying in those countries. So if you are interested, if you need to pay to study in Poland, or if it's important to have the best grades in Italy, you need to listen to this episode. Today's podcast is also special because it will be an interview, our first interview, with our guest, Andrea Lo Piccolo. Andrea comes from Sicily. He studied law in Palermo and graduated last year. During his studies, he took part in Erasmus program twice. He went to Poland and Spain. Right now he is employed in a legal company in Messina. We will compare his experience with ours. Both me and Michalina also have studied law in Poland, and we also graduated last year. The first question will be more general. How does the university system look like? The differences between public and private universities? How long does the study last? And how many students were with us during the year? So, here we go.
Okay, hi to everyone. I'm Andrea. Well, about the university in Italy, it's not simple to answer this question because now we have three kinds of universities. We have the public, the private, and they are both really well known. And also now it's time for the informatical one, like the new kind of private, but with exams that are only online. So I would say that it's more popular, the public one, but there are benefits from the private university because it's more easy after the private university find a job in Italy. But the new kind of university, that is the informatical one, it has its own benefits too, because it's expensive, but in the same time it's really easy to make exams, and it's better for people that are working. So the way of these exams and lessons is really easy for people that are already working. The public one is the most common. There are a lot of people choosing it. It's not really expensive, but we have a lot of taxes too. And it's, I will say, more difficult to find a job after the public one, but it's the easy one to get.
Hi guys, so I'm Michalina and I will be explaining, as Wojtek said before, about how does it look in Poland. So about this question and about what Andrea said, I need to say that in Poland it is quite different. So we also have public and private universities, but in Poland the public ones are actually more prestigious and they are mostly free. Of course, there are some exceptions from that, but they are mostly free. So if you get in, you don't need to pay any fees. But the private ones, it's easier mostly to get in, but it's also they are less prestigious. So it's mostly public ones, and also it's just looks better in a curriculum mostly. So it's kind of different. And also, Andrea, you mentioned the informatical ones, and in Poland we don't really have them, but also because of the pandemic, some of universities, both public and private, they started to open some courses that are like remote only, but it's not like the whole university, but just some of the parts.
Right now in Poland we removed all pandemic rules. So right now every studies are normally in school. Maybe not all, but general universities try to back students into schools. And also because public universities in Poland are free, so there is more candidates on one place. So it's harder to get in, so that's why it's luxurious. It's like similar what Michalina said, but I wanted to precise it.
Well, about the normal years of university, I have to say that, especially in public one, we have a difference between a normal university and faculties like law and medicine one. Because the normal university normally lasts 3 years, then you can do another one that is kind of a master, that is 2 years to complete your studies. But if we are talking about law faculties or medicine one, they last more. For example, the law one is 5 years, but it's considered as a master, real master, let's say. And the medicine one is 6 years. After law and medicine, you can still make other studies for specialize you. And well, after law, if you want to become a lawyer, you can attend a course and also a traineeship that is lasting 2 years. After that, you have to have an exam and then you will become a lawyer. For medicine, it's a bit different because it depends which kind of doctor you want to be. But normally the complete cycle of medicine is 10 years, considering the 6 year of university. So then you can have 4 years of specialization, and then you will become a full doctor, and you can, of course, do your profession. About how many people are in the university, well, of course, it depends by the faculty and by the cities. I think the most big university in Italy is Bologna, and it's full of international students, so it's really hard to say how many people there are, for example, in Bologna. But in my university, in the Faculty of Law in Palermo, when I enrolled, we were 1,000 of people only in Palermo, only in the Faculty of Law. So there are really a lot of people that are choosing the public university, but we must consider also the private one that, as I said, is really related with work, and it's really easy after the private university find a work, because this kind of university take money from companies, and they ensure to companies basically people who studied there. So the companies knows as you studied, how much hard did you do it, and normally they take people from the private university. The telematical one or informatical one are really a resource right now, even if they are not considered as prestigious as the public or the private one, because, as I said, they are for people that are working. And they were really a trend, especially during the pandemic, because they used to let you do exams online, but not only online, also in presence, but still with the computer. So you could use the computer, with a test. Of course, you could not use internet, but they were, the street to follow when COVID entered in Italy. So they were important because they showed us that another kind of university was possible even with COVID.
In Poland also there was, during COVID, of course, many universities changed the organization, as Wojtek said before, that right now we are coming back to the normal functioning and to actually going to university for classes, but for a long time it functioned remotely. But also coming back to the first part of the question about how long the studies last. And in Poland, about law, it's exactly the same as in Italy. So it's 5 years, and it's kind of an exception, because normally it will be 3 years of bachelor and then 2 years of master's degree, or 3.5 years of engineer and 1.5 year of master's. But in case of law, it's 5 years, and it's also the master. And about medicine, it's also the same, 6 years. So this is identical. Yes, and also about the things you do after you graduate from law. It's also that to be for example an attorney or a judge, you also need to have this special training, special kind of a postgraduate course, but it's of course something more than a course. It lasts around 3 years.
I could describe it as extra studies because it's similar to studies. You have in Poland, you have also like lectures, also like exams during that, but you also work in companies.
You also have practice. You go to the court, but I would say it's also kind of similar to Italy. Oh, and about the number of people. When I was at the first year of law on University of Wrocław, on the first year on day studies, there were like around 300 people, but this number was decreasing with time. Some people were just changing. Some people were like failing exams, but in general, like more or less like 200 finished from that group. So yeah, but law is like one of the most popular careers that are chosen by young people in Poland. So it's like you can see it in a like statistics of how many people are interested in a particular career.
Now we know how system of universities look like. Now we can go to another important topic about studies, which are form of classes and exams. So guys, the floor is yours.
So I will start with how it is in Poland. So about classes, we have two types of classes, mostly from most of the subjects, at least at law. I will say how does it look in law. So we have lectures and so-called workshops. And lectures are usually led by a professor, and they are, for example, the whole year goes to one lecture. So there is a lot of people. They are happening in those big aulas. And lectures are, in theory, they are obligatory, at least on the university that I graduated. But also it's from not many of them, it's actually required for you to be present. So some professors will check if you are there, but mostly they won't. And there is this another type that is those workshops that are actually pretty similar to classes at school. And those are, students are divided into smaller groups, like 20-25 people. The workshops are usually led by people with PhD or people in process of getting PhD, so not professors. It's mandatory to go to those workshops, and they are they're more interactive. They often require for a student to be active, to answer questions, to come up with some cases, to interact with other students. It's more engaging, and lectures are mostly just sitting and listening to the professor. So this is about the form. Like when it comes to exams, there is in one subject there are usually two kind of exams. One is a proper exam, and another one is an exam from workshops. So it's usually like a smaller thing. It's more like a test, but it's also important and crucial to pass the whole subject. So if you want to pass the whole subject, you need to pass both workshops and lectures. And first one is always a test from workshop. And then if you pass that, you're entitled to go and pass the exam from the lecture. It's usually more like theoretical, and sometimes those areas of those two exams are covering, and sometimes they are completely like they are in the scope of the same subject, but they are from a different areas of that subject. So yeah, to pass the whole subject, you need to pass those two kinds of exams.
Well, in Italy, it's pretty different because we have lectures and normally professors are making them, or assistants, which are people who got the graduation, but they are doctor in, for example, law or other faculties. So not student in process, only teacher and this kind of assistants. We don't have practical lessons, I have to say. At least in law, there are not workshops, but for us, there are 5 ACTS that are mandatory, and these ACTS are a part of studies that is linked with conferences. So we have conferences. Every conference is basically one ACTS. And conferences are attended by students, but also other people that can come. And they are made by teachers, but very important people also. So, for example, in law, sometimes we invite judges or lawyers or other really important, also political personalities. So, this is not really practical, but it's still a conference, so we can ask questions. We can talk about some important topic, and that's it basically. About the exams, in law, they are mainly oral. So we don't have tests like written tests or quiz. Normally they are oral. Sometimes the teachers make us do at the middle of the course, like a small test, really little one that is not really counting a lot, but they make you a discount on the program at the end for the final exam. And for us, what is really, really important are the grades. The grades are the most important part. We have grades from 18 to 30, and then you can get also the laude, which is counting on the final graduation. And the grades are really important, especially if on the final exam, that is the discussion of the thesis, because depending on the mark you have, you can find better opportunities or chance to work out of the university. So for us, it's really important to study and to know things perfectly. I really believe that it's not well done in Italy, because we are really stressed about the exams, and sometimes people just learn by heart the lesson and they vomit it basically to the teacher, and they got the very important grade, but then after the exam they don't really remember what they studied. So I would like to have a different system, but in Italy for the moment it's working like that.
Okay, so in Poland, it's actually with the grades, it's a bit different. Of course, there are also situations that people just learn by heart what they need to know, and then just are forgetting. And actually, like in some subjects, it's hard to when you have a lot to learn, it's actually hard not to learn at least some fragments by heart. But yeah, mostly it is not really a good strategy in Poland. Yes, but about the grades, our scale is from 2 to 5, and 2 is like a not passing, and 5 is the highest one. And also the grades in Poland are not that important. Of course, it's important to pass the exams, but also
without passing you can't end your studies, so it's really important.
But for getting the job, for example, more important is what you did outside of studies. So, for example, if you maybe done some internship, you worked somewhere law related, or even not, even just like some work to make you just like competent and to show the possible employer that you will be like a good worker, and also all your activities, for example, in some student organizations, some volunteering, things like that. It can be also important while applying for a job. So mostly the employer will not be really interested in your grades, but in the things that you've done besides learning. And also in Poland, during your studies, it is mandatory to have an internship. At least during studying law, it's mandatory. For example, an internship in court or in the like prosecutor's office. Or you can also have an internship in like attorney's office. So it's like a short internship, like for example 1 month, not like a full time. And for you just to have an opportunity to see how does it look in practice. How does those professions actually look. And I think it's like a really good idea for people to just to see, because actually law in practice and in theory can be two totally different things. So it's really useful to just have this experience before you graduate.
And honestly, for me, this internship during law studies, it's a little joke, because you have only make 1 month of this internship. So I don't think that you can really learn something from that, because no one will give you like a serious job to do if you are with them only for a month. But it's just by the way what Michalina said.
But it is also possible to count in your work. If you're working in like a legal field, you can count in as internship. So it's also it doesn't have to be that month. Yeah, and also I think because mostly those if you want to go to have your internship at court for like student practices, it will be unpaid. So I think if it will be required to have a longer ones, to have a longer internships, it will not be really convenient for the people that, for example, need to work for their living. Like, for example, they don't have like a support of their parents. It will not be really possible to devote so much time for this obligatory internship that would be free, for example. But yeah, this is another topic.
But the internship is the same in Italy. I am in the middle position between Michalina and Wojtek, because I think it's really important to have an internship, for example, in an attorney's office or in a law firm, because you can understand if you would like to do this job one day in the life, but also you don't have a full vision about what is working after the university. So you may go to an attorney's office, but then you don't know if you would like to be a judge or another occupation. And yeah, it's really short, this. Also in Italy, it's really 1 month or 2 months, and it's not really satisfactory, and also it's for free, so you are not paid for this kind of job. And yeah, sometimes they don't really take you on count, so they just put you making photocopies or other stuff, and not really learning what you will have to do one day.
Thank you for listening to the first part of our interview. Because we have a lot of material, we decided to make it into 2 episodes. Stay tuned for the second part of the interview that will air soon. In the next part, we will talk more about students' life, parties and accommodation. Ciao ragazzi!